So for 13 years, the country has struggled to understand the necessity or indeed the relevance of the two-thirds gender principle, constitutional amendments that have been proposed on this matter. Some of the recommendations have had reasonable formulae for actualization of the two-thirds gender principle. Unfortunately, some recommendations have notoriously been at the expense of preserving the structure and composition of the legislature as prescribed by the Constitution. So, as we move forward, and Mheshimiwa Kalonzo and others are at the center of this, we intend to take another crack at this again. Through progressive dialogue such as today, we should find reasonable solutions to this constitutional challenge. Fifth, the nagging issue of capacity for devolved units to facilitate constructive accountability. Devolution remains one of the transformative elements of our Constitution. In the early days of devolution, the separation of the county executives from the county assembly seemed a novel idea until it began to show misalignment of power and interests. This led to the current controversies, only resolved through impeachment. If we are thinking constitutional realignment, it is important to consider options which may facilitate constructive institutional checks within counties. Then there's the issue of election management. Parliament has made significant progress establishing the legislative framework contemplated by the 2010 Constitution and the establishment of relevant institutions to fulfill the constitutional objects on elections. Over the last 3 elections, the electoral bodies built capacity and operational efficiency in management of elections. On future election cycles, the conversation beginning today should address the following issues, and you have touched on them, but there's no harm in repeating them. The absence of a properly constituted electoral commission poses a constitutional risk to our democracy. The immediate worry is that the commission will lag behind in preparing for the 2027 elections. Cumulatively, delay will slow progress in the constitutionally mandatory boundaries delimitation, preparation for the mass voter registration process, therefore a new voter register considering the delimitation, and general preparedness for the 2027 election. As such, conversation in this conference should complement any other processes in place, including the National Dialogue Committee, NADOC, and the process for recruitment of new commissioners. You should provide concrete recommendations. Lack of significant challenges to the electoral laws in the 2017 to 2022 election cycle. Though recommendations were made, only late changes through the Political Parties Amendment Act, which were more political than transformative, were affected to the electoral law. The last comprehensive review of electoral law was in 2016 by the Joint Committee led by Governor James Orengo and the former Governor Kiraitu Murungi while serving in the Senate. The changes directly impacted the 2017 election and largely influenced the Supreme Court's decision in the incidental presidential election petition, Raila 2. I am of the view that given the dynamic nature of Kenya's political and socio-economic landscape, it is necessary that discussions on the electoral law reforms should begin immediately and that enactment of necessary electoral laws be done at least 12 months before the 2027 elections. And this is so critical because even as we speak, I don't know how the team will tackle this because we also have cases. People are actually challenging the validity of the census numbers. and those matters are in court. And if it happens that those censors are declared invalid, or they get their way on their petition, then what does that mean for the process that is going on and where we are going? Because then it would mean that everything again is put to hold unless we can all say that we have clean data around the census. So that is a landmine somewhere in the path of this bipartisan talks. Let me also talk about deferred electoral legislation. Due to inability to enact relevant legislation in the 2017-2022 election cycle, priority legislative proposals were neither considered by Parliament nor enacted. These proposals included enactment of a separate referendum bill to have referenda governed differently from ordinary elections prescribed for under the Elections Act. The amendment of the Election Campaign Financing Act, this has been talked to, so I don't really have to belabor it. The amendment to the IEBC Act to facilitate boundaries delimitation exercise. It was constitutionally expected to have been completed in March 2014, actually, and here we are. You are also aware the boundaries delimitation law lapsed with the first delimitation exercise conducted in 2012. We are therefore living a dangerous lapse of judgment. My office considers these are priority legislations for reintroduction in Parliament for enactment. They are quick wins to create momentum for necessary electoral law reform. Ladies and gentlemen, as a nation, it's about time we deal decisively with the cyclic violence that afflicts our country during and after elections. The solution lies in our duty as patriotic citizens to believe in and abide by our Constitution, which provides adequate safeguards for free and fair elections. Elections may be a make or break moment, but they should never be a do or die moment so that we destroy the country. And this is so critical. Let us go back to the journey of Musando, the late. Let us go back to the others in the IEBC who lost their lives. Let us reflect on the fear we visit on officials of IEBC because of our politics. What can we do so that this comes to an end? There are difficult times for all of us, but we must forge, and maybe through the bipartisan process, let us also come out very clearly and say no to taking away the lives of electoral officials, or any life for that matter, because of our politics. For reference, the 2022 elections gave us a rare opportunity to engage in issue-based political mobilization and discourse. Both the process and outcome of the 2022 general election were credible and met all the constitutional thresholds upon which the standard of credibility is measured. However, the specter of violence reared its ugly head again despite the Supreme Court exhaustively rendering judgment. This conference should work towards ensuring that all election stakeholders commit to uphold higher electoral standards that yield acceptable results, leading to full public confidence and nation building, and not destructive riots. The conversation to audit cyclic violence since the return of multi-party politics in 1992 and provide practical solutions to address the causative issues should begin here. The composition of the participants and the agenda of this conference predisposes it to a political meeting. You therefore have no excuse for not tackling the hard issues. Our realities must speak and make us strive for change. Meaningful change only comes with accepting what our realities are and working together to meet the needs of these realities. Our political and ideological differences notwithstanding, our common realities remain stubborn and can only be dealt with through joint effort symbolized by this conference. I therefore reiterate the commitment of the Kenya Kwanza government to cooperate with and facilitate all the processes that will enable full consolidation of constitutional transformation. And on this, I support Honorable Kalonzo, that Parliament is the body that appropriates. And if Parliament has seen it fit that this process needs to be supported, then Parliament constitutes the representatives of the people. So we need to move ahead, because not too long ago, we were getting calls that there must be dialogue.